everybody in person, hi everybody on Zoom, and welcome to the San Mateo Arboretum Society seminar on native plants hosted by Leslie Muennemann. This program will be an hour to 90 minutes long. If you have questions in person, feel free to ask. Leslie will repeat them for the Zoom and answer them. On Zoom, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will get to them and Leslie will answer them for you. The program is recorded and a link to the program as well as our feedback form will be sent out later today, maybe tomorrow, for everyone to take a look at. The program will be uploaded to YouTube. While I'm here, I'll tell you a little bit about what the Arboretum has going on. So we have right now open right over there in Central Park, San Mateo, the greenhouse, which is open noon to 3 for plant sales every Saturday and Sunday. Feel free to stop by. There's always something new over there. A lot of our plants are donations. It's very fun. Additionally, while you're in the park, feel free to stop by the hummingbird and pollinator garden, the rose garden or demonstration garden, all of which is kept up by our volunteers here at the Arboretum. And now I will introduce our speaker, Leslie. Leslie is a very experienced master gardener. She's been a master gardener for 15 years, I believe. And she is here to kind of tell us about her journey in making her own riparian native garden in Los Altos here in the Bay. So feel free to take it away, Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So yes, my name is Leslie Muennemann, and I am a master gardener. I became a master gardener in 2008. Before then, I was a master composter. And let me tell you a little bit about the Master Gardener program. So it is under the auspices of the University of California, and every county in California has their own Master Gardener program. So if you wanted to become a Master Gardener, and I highly encourage anybody to do that, we have trainings. It's by county, the county you live in, and every few years, the Master Gardener program will offer training. And if you like to garden and you like people and community service, this is the place for you. We do things like, well, the training involves several weeks of UC professors mostly will come to us and train us. We do, our program at least does 1 day a week for like 10, 15 weeks, something like that. It's like a college course pretty much. And then, to remain a master gardener, our commitment is to go out into the community and to share our knowledge. We don't know everything, but we know where to look for the answers. So we do community service, like right outside here. There's a plant clinic. We do that, I think, every month. And people will come up with their plants and ask us questions, what's ailing my plant or what do I do? We have helplines, and as I go through my presentation, there'll be emails and addresses of places where you can go in person, call by phone, or send an email. Plant problems you have. We do a school train the trainer program where parents and staff who want to start a school garden are taught how to do that. We don't do it for you. We teach you how to do it, and then you go and teach other people how to do it. We do a lot of community gardens. We have programs called Green Corner and Harvest for Neighbors, I think it's called, where we grow plants and extra plants in our garden, edibles, and donate them to food banks. And we also go and help volunteer in community gardens and teach the community gardeners how to, grow things and improve their harvest. So there are many ways that we help people with gardening. My interest has been native plants because I have a native garden, and as I go through my presentation, I'll tell you the evolution of that. Let's see, you want to go to? You're doing it. Are you doing it? Next slide. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Now you're on.
All right. So let's see here. And all right. So we bought our house in the southernmost part of the San Mateo County in 1986. And at that time, we were both working and we had a 1-year-old. And the house that we bought is kind of in it's called Stanford Weekend Acres, the neighborhood. It's off of Alpine Road near I-280 and the Dish. If you go down 280, you see the Dish up on the hill. We're kind of at the foot of that. And one house from ours is San Francisco Creek, which is the boundary between San Mateo County and Santa Clara County. And so it's very rural. It's oak, mostly oak there, and a lot of buckeye. But originally it was subdivided in the 1920s, and it was vacation homes. And through here. Yeah, there you go. So these are the helplines that I told you about, and you're all going to get a PDF of this presentation with this information. You can click on most of these highlighted links here that will take you to either to email or to the website that it's about. And so click away when you get your PDF, because there's a lot more information behind these words. All right, so let's see here. There we go. So, so in our neighborhood, it's very native, naturally, except for the homes. People have bought up homes over the years. They used to be vacation homes, and now people are making them their homes, and there's very little movement. I mean, because we're kind of a unique neighborhood. We're very rural, but we're in the middle of suburbia, and we're down by the creek. So it's quite a lovely place. And are you moving it? Let's see. There we go. Yeah. Okay. A lot of the houses have manicured gardens, and we saw that. And when we bought our house, it had a manicured garden, and we didn't particularly like it. We liked the house. We liked the location. There are no sidewalks. There are no street lights, at least in the original part of the neighborhood. There's no drainage. There are no culverts. I mean, the county had subdivided this in the 20s, and they didn't put any of those improvements in. Now the newer developments, they're starting to put that stuff in, but it just has a very undeveloped kind of feeling to it, and we like that. And we had a neighbor up the road from us that had a native garden, and a real native garden. And she and her husband had, the fence was that welded wire. So every time we walked by, we could look at it, and they had bird feeders, and it was just incredibly lovely. I mean, it's very, very peaceful. She did a good job of taking care of it. She taught us and the kids a lot over the years. Like they had some bats fell out of a little bat nest somewhere, and you know, it's just, there's so much habitat and wildlife in that neighborhood because we're down by the creek. So we were influenced by that, and over the years, so we went on to have 2 more kids. And it took us about 20 years to finally come to a decision about a garden. And we decided that we wanted it to look like our environment, where we live. We didn't want to have a manicured garden like what we had bought. So we basically, because we were working and raising children, our garden was neglected, and little by little it returned to its natural state. I mean, the plants died because we were taking care of them, and the garden got weedy, and we'd go in and we clear out a space in the back and have a vegetable garden for the kids. And you know, it was kind of an eyesore for a long time, but you know, we didn't care. We didn't have the energy to do more than that, but we kept talking about what we wanted eventually. And we settled on a native garden. And the reason for natives is that they've evolved for the environment that they grow in. And so when you decide on what kind of natives you want to grow, you need to figure out where you are. And we were near the water. So even though our lot is not on the creek, there are a lot of trees and bushes that will grow in that area that are creek related. And but it's also very dry. So our backyard looks pretty much like the Dish. If you go up to the Dish, it's very dry up there, and that's kind of hot and dry. That's kind of what our backyard looks like. So, you know, we worked with a landscape architect to figure out what we were going to plant back there. But over the years, to learn about this and to figure out what it was what we really wanted and that we could both live with, we had to learn about gardens. The next one. Oh, I'm going backwards. All right. So one of the tools that I recommend to everybody who's interested in native gardens is to go to the Growing Natives Garden Tour, which is here on the peninsula. They have it every year. It's free. It's through the California Natives Plant Society. Just basically, they will give you a list with addresses of houses, people like you and me who have native gardens and are on the tour, and you go to their homes and they'll probably have somebody there to point you around, and you'll get to see what they've done with natives in their yard. You get to see these plants actually growing different, some will be new, some will be old, so you'll get to see them at different stages of maturity. This website, if you click on this link when you get your PDF, it'll take you to the website, and they have lots of videos. So if you don't want to go on the tour, you can also do it remotely and just see what other people have done. And that's what we did. We went and saw what they look like in the ground and learned as much as we can about what we liked, what we didn't like. We had just files and files of pictures because it took my husband and me a long time to settle on what we liked, what we could live with. And over the years, we hired you can hire a designer, which is somebody who's gone to like a junior college and gotten a certificate for design, landscape design, or you can hire a landscape architect who's somebody who's gone to the university and they have a lot more training in that field. But if you've ever thought of natives being boring, look at that. That is a mallow, and that is in the San Carlos City Garden in the library there. So master gardeners were given an opportunity to plant that area. So it was looking kind of tired, and they took it on, and it's full of natives now. And that must be more than one plant, and it must be getting plenty of water because it is just magnificent. I just saw that and I go, wow. So we chose natives because we wanted it to look like our native, our surrounding environment. We didn't like that manicured look. We didn't want a fussy garden. We had experienced a fussy garden, and it's a lot of work. There's just too much work. So you can conserve water with natives because once they get established, they get their roots in the ground, then they can survive mostly on rain. So you can turn your irrigation off, and most of them don't need more water. Some look better, and I'll point this out as I go, look better with a little more water. Now, the natives will also, because they're meant for this environment, they're going to attract the animals that live in this environment. And if you don't have those plants, those animals are going to disappear. A lot of birds have disappeared because we're losing natives, and a lot of cities are realizing that this is a benefit on many levels for the environment, for water, for the air, for the ecology. And they've started, the state of California, as you know, they've been planting natives up and down the freeways. And you can see a lot of them. The Matiliha poppy is a big white flower. They call it the fried egg. Toyon, which we have some in our garden, which has got red berries sometimes of the year. And there are many others that are just magnificent when you let them grow to their natural size. And they're gonna bring the pollinators, they're gonna bring the animals that belong there. Now, where we live, I remember when we had just moved there, I looked out the window and I saw a skunk, and I go, oh my God, what do I do? Do I call 911? And I go, wait a minute, you live in the country now. This is their environment. We have opossum, we have raccoons, we have rats, we have squirrels, everything you can imagine. We had a mama duck come up for the creek. She was a little disoriented. She and her ducklings were going up the lane, and we had to go out and shoo them back to the lane, back to the creek where they belong. And we have foxes, we have lots of coyote, you can hear them at night, owls, lots of owls and hawks. That's the beauty of being among these plants that belong here. We also have redwoods in our neighborhood that somebody must have planted back in the 50s or 60s. And they really don't belong in our environment. In fact, in my neighborhood, some of those have started to dry up because because of the drought. We just don't have enough water for them. Even though they're near a creek, the creek, it gets, when it rains, it fills up. And depending on how much, we've had a flood in 97 with El Nino, it did flood and we did get evacuated. Our house didn't flood, thank goodness, but, and then just this last December 31st, January 1st, there was a pretty heavy rain. And we have some video where we show it's rushing. We can see it from our balcony, see over into our neighbor's yard and the creek, she's right on the creek. Luckily, it didn't flood her property, but other people that were lower in my neighborhood did get flooded. So, you know, you're working with nature, and it seems to me that when you work with it, and natives are part of it, when you work with what is, you have a much better and more enjoyable experience than if you bring in all these plants that don't belong there. They're just so much more work. All right, let's see here. Now, I'm going backwards. I want to go forwards. There we go. So this is what the top of the lane looks like. So it's a rural neighborhood, and as you can see, it doesn't have sidewalks. It's just very funky. And we're kind of landlocked, so we have like a long driveway down to our property. And those are developments on either side. Those are more modern developments. And you can see the oak trees in there. Now, on our lane, you know, there's 3 addresses on my lane. And I dig on those where you see the leaves. So the leaves just fall on the dirt there, year in, year out, so that there is just leaf mold like this. I mean, because, you know, there's no maintenance of it. It's just natural the way it is out in the forest. And that's wonderful to me, to go out there and to see so near my house what things are when you leave them alone and let nature do its thing, to see what it looks like. And it is magnificent soil. So there was too much of it, and one of the neighbors wanted it to be moved away from the fences so it wouldn't damage the fence. So we were in there, I was getting the master gardeners to come in and help themselves and move it out, and we were putting it in our planter box. So on the right here is what it looked like for many years. It was weedy. And I was a gardener, and I was trying to, you know, plant things that basically, this is before I became a master gardener. I'm self-taught pretty much. I've gardened my whole adult life. Now, one of the things that we noticed in our property and our area was there are a lot of big rocks. So we started collecting them, and we had a big pile of rocks, which you can see there, and lots of weeds. So for about 20 years, we started piling up rocks and started asking the neighbors to give us the rocks because they're beautiful rocks. You know, we figured someday we'd do something with them. We had no plans. We had no idea what we were going to do. And so, you know, for a long time, our yard looked pretty messy. Now, this is what that same area looks like now. As you can see, those rocks were put to good use. This is the landscaper, or so we ended up hiring a landscape architect, and then we had to put it out for bids to the people that were going to actually build the yard, and they came up with that. And so we have throughout our property, the rocks, we have 2 water features that use the rocks, and then there's a water pump that circulates the water, and I'll show you that later on. So this is what it looks like more or less now. We had an arbor, I guess, an arbor over the garage. And we have, I'll talk about the plant that we put in there. And what was really important to us was that we wanted to keep water on our property. So, because we don't have any drainage, everything would run off. All the rain would run off into the lane and just be puddled there. Things would get muddy. Our property was always muddy in the rain. So everything was permeable. And this driveway is permeable asphalt. So when it rains or we wash the car, the water goes right through. And, you know, that goes down to the water table and that stays in the area. Then the stones that we have there, they're set in sand. So they're not set in mortar except for the stairs up to the house. Those, I guess they glued those in place. But everything is so that the water will go straight into the soil. So as I said, we did try plans with designers, a couple of those, and none of them really got us excited. And then we hired a landscape architect, but we hired her after we'd gone to many of these tours and we observed we found out who did what. We started to know their styles. And I had talked to a few. I remember calling one and he said, so how much do you think you want to spend? And I just thought, well, you know, $50,000. I thought that was a lot of money. And he said, forget it. He was not interested in that level. So there are people out there and you know, you're just going to have to shop around. And I think it's worth it. It was for us because we did all 4 sides of our yard. And this is a plan that, you know, a lot of thought went into, because at that time when we did this, I think it was 2009, we were probably in our 50s, late 50s, and we had a mom, my husband's mother, who was approaching 100, and we could see what the future was going to bring. I mean, we had a dress rehearsal here, so we knew that we wanted to stay in our house as long as possible. We didn't want to have levels. And we wanted it to be something that we could maintain. And so that was the discussion that we had with our landscaper. We wanted this to be a long-term project. So it was worth the investment that we put into it. And this is what she came up. This is the front yard. So this was the design that we settled on. And there's a water feature. Let's see, I have a pointer here. Let's see if I can get that. Oh, I'm supposed to point to that, right? I'm not getting it to work. Huh?
The top button down.
Top.
Yeah, the top button.
Okay, there we go. All right, so there's a little water feature there. And these are, the circles are all plants. And we've made a few changes since. This was a hedge, pittosporum hedge, I think, that we took out. And we put new plants in there. And so when we busted the patio in the back, it was all that aggregate, that ugly old fashioned aggregate. So instead of taking it to the dump, we used it, actually the aggregate went over in this yard. So we used it to make stepping stones in the yard. So very little went to the dump. We used what we had. Okay, so then let's see. Here's the backyard. And one of the things that I loved about our landscape architect's design was that she came up with these, the wrong one. Huh? Pointer, yeah, I'm trying to get the pointer.
Top button.
Top button. These planter boxes here, 3 planter boxes. And, you know, we like to garden. This is our vegetable garden for the most part. She put in a little greenhouse. She had a greenhouse on her yard. I couldn't believe she could actually put a greenhouse on ours, but it's wonderful. It's really a fun hobby greenhouse. And so we grow from seed. We grow mostly greens and faba beans. My son lives with us and he likes to grow faba beans. And so, you know, this is a regular garden here. And this is our stone patio, and I'll show you more pictures of some of the features here. But this is what you're going to get from a landscape architect. And what she did that was, I thought, really ingenious was that she presented us 3 plants with all her ideas. And so we looked at the 3 and we circled, we like this and plan, this plan, this plan. So she took the 3 with the circled things that we liked, and she put them into one plant, and that's what resulted. Oh, going the wrong way. Let's see. I'll get it. I'll get it eventually. All right. So this, I just looked out on Google Maps. I was able to get an aerial photo of my house, and it shows you the planters. And this is really useful because it shows you, they must have taken this in the summertime at 12 o'clock because the sun's right overhead, and it shows you exactly where the sun is. And this is something that is important to know in your yard is, you know, what kind of environment do you have when you're gonna decide what kind of plants you're gonna work with, and where's the sun? And remember that it's lower in the winter time, so we get less sun in the back in the winter time than we do in the summertime. So you know, go online and see if you can find an aerial view of your house. Now, this is what it looked like when they just planted it the first time, 2009. So remember, we had a weedy garden, and we had lots of rocks. So what she realized was that in our backyard, this is this neighborhood's from 1920, and they didn't move any of the earth or anything. They just put a fence, and then people plopped a house on. So this is part of a ravine, this low part here. Let's see if I can get the pointer again. Top button. Someday I'll learn. Someday I'll learn. Okay, so here's a swale, and what they call rain gardens now too. And it was the lowest point in the backyard. And it's part, if you continue down to the neighbors, there's a ravine. That's just the natural geography of that land. And it's basically where the creek, when it overflows, would naturally go through that ravine, and then the ravine goes in this direction back down to the creek. So this is just a natural feature in our backyard. And so she took that and designed into it, created a low point. So all the downspouts and all the water is oriented to empty into this. It never fills up. We don't get that much rain, but there are pipes underneath the hardscape that go and empty into here. And then she planted it to make it look like a dry creek, or, you know, plants that look kind of like down at the creek. And not all of these are still there. This is a very young garden. And so we had an apricot tree, and that got enormous. And we finally took it out just recently because it got some disease. And the other thing is that it's a lot of work. You have to prune it. And we never got any fruit. Critters got all the fruit. Over all those years, we never got any apricots. Yes, yes. And so we finally took that out. And I'll show you pictures where this is really filled in a lot. So another thing to notice is that there's a hedge in the back, and there's a big house in the back. Now, we're in San Mateo County, and the county allowed the property owner behind us to turn their footprint around so that their side yard was on our back fence. Most houses are 20 feet, backyard to backyard, 20 feet to 20 feet. So no, they were like 5 feet from our backyard. So this enormous, it looked like 3 stories to us, house was built there. So I planted my neighbor said, oh, privets, they grow really fast. So I went and got all these little privet seedlings from her yard, and they did grow very fast, and it filled in, but they're really, really messy. Now, the other thing that we found out is that we have an easement right there on the fence where we planted. We have a PG&E easement, and you're not supposed to plant on a PG&E easement. Well, we and most people have disregarded that. There is gas underneath, and there's electrical overhead. So just recently, we took that out, the privet out, because we're going to replace the fence. We're working with our neighbor now. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is this arbor. So this is one of the hottest spots in our backyard. And so we're looking north, I think. As you're looking towards my neighbor's house, you're looking north. So that the south is behind us. And so we get a lot of sun in the backyard. And on this arbor, we planted 2 native grapes. Now they're hybrids. It's a cross between a California native and a probably a European grape. And its claim to fame is that it turns red in the fall. It's beautiful. I have a picture of it. So we planted 2, 1 on each post, and I'll show you a picture of what it looks like. Now, when I first gave this presentation, I did with another master gardener. We're about the same age, and we both done native gardens, and we both laughed because when we planted the native gardens, we thought, oh, well, they're less maintenance, you know, it's less work. Well, when you put it in the ground, you realize, no, you still have to prune them. You still have to make sure they're getting enough water. You don't fertilize them. They're not nearly as fussy, but they're not no maintenance. And so it's been a learning process, and that's been my experience all along. All right, so this is that same swale from the opposite direction. As you can see, it's a pretty steep slope there. And I love this view. Now, some of the plants here, this is a fuchsia, California fuchsia, and it comes in different, this is the mounding. And this is my absolute favorite because it grows just like that. We didn't do anything. That's just its natural way of growing. It likes sun. The apricot filled in and shaded it, so they don't bloom anymore. They're still there, and if they get water, and sun, they would start to bloom again. But you can get these in many. They have tall ones. They have all sorts of it's called epilobium, and this is the ground cover version. There you go. So you notice in the I've highlighted the names that you click on, and it will take you to Calscape, where you can learn all about this particular plant. And I've done that throughout the presentation. Most of the photos have a link embedded that you can click on and learn more about it. So in the backyard, one of the things that this designer did that I really liked was that she segregated one of the patios. So we have the big patio where the arbor is and the planter boxes in the greenhouse. That's all off the living room. This part is off the 2, we have 2 sons, and they have their bedrooms with sliding doors onto this patio. And she put a little fence in there and made it a private space. And we thought at the time that if we ever needed income, we could rent those rooms because the sliding doors have keys on them, and people could come through the side yard and we're right next to Sanford. So we thought, you know, if we ever, this is just trying to think ahead. Okay, so it's planning ahead. And then as you can see here, the rocks were put to good use. So we had, and the water features are really wonderful. The birds will come in and splash around. And so we also planted, I wanted 3 fruit trees. I asked her for apricot, pomegranate, and figs. So those are all expensive to buy. So I figured, okay, let's grow the ones that are expensive. And we got rid of the pomegranate, I mean the apricot, but the pomegranate and the fig, they are the best for this area. They love this hot climate. They are just perfect, and they are very, very easy to grow, very productive. I have pictures later on. So you also see in here, there's this is called the coyote bush or coyote brush. It's extremely vigorous. I gave it a haircut. I cut it all the way down to the ground once, and it came right back. So, and it also, we were trying to figure out if it was female or male. It propagates, it seeds. So it's volunteering all over my yard. And we dig it up and try to, it's very sensitive to water. So it's one of those that you really have to pay attention. But it's here, it doesn't, you know, after 1 year, we turned the water off, and things are just living off the rain. Some, like this ceanothus back here, wasn't getting any water for many, many years, and it's in the bright sun, and it finally gave up the ghost. And I think it just, you know, it dried out. And this, I don't know if this is a lemon or what it was, but it didn't last very long either. Now, snags are little pieces of wood that you see when you go in the forest, you just see limbs that are falling down. Those usually have wildlife in them, insects. So when we cut down our walnut tree, the wood's beautiful, so we just kind of scattered those around the yard. And it's just a feature that's fun to add to the garden. Here's the pomegranate, and last year we had quite a crop. Now I've tried to train it into being a tree, and that means pruning all those suckers, and it's a lot of work. It really, really wants to be a bush. So I think I'm gonna go along with it now and let it be a bush. Now, one thing that you learn in Master Gardeners is that if you don't want to be reaching all the way up and getting up on a ladder to take fruit, you got to prune it. You learn how to prune properly and when to do it. Like with the pomegranate, you don't prune off last year's wood, because that's where the flower is going to be. That's where you're going to get the fruit. So, this is a trial and error. I made many, many mistakes, but I'm learning as I go. Here's a fig. Now, originally I wanted it to be a espalier. Now, I'm not the most disciplined gardener. Many, many years went by and it kept growing and growing, and I kind of prune a little bit to shape it, but I wasn't really training it to be a espalier. And then 10 years in, I said, okay, I'm gonna do. I butchered that poor plant, and my son said, you killed it, sure. And I thought, well, okay, I killed it. We'll grow another one. It came right back. They're tough. What it forced it to do, and I'm doing this now on purpose with a younger fig. It was probably about 5 feet tall, but it was young and it was narrow. And I cut it down to about 2 feet, and it's forcing it. Branches are coming out where you didn't even imagine branches are. So it came back and it's doing very well. And now I am trying to, put weights on the branches and trying to shape it and tie it into place. So it's fun. It's fun to do. Here's the grape that I was talking about, the arbor. And this is its claim to fame. And as you can see, it's pretty sparse. I mean, it's losing its leaves, because it's deciduous. So it loses its leaves in the winter. And but it changes color and it's very pretty. Okay. But you can see we haven't pruned it, so it's kind of messy. And you have a question?
What growing zone are you in?
What growing zone am I in? Is 9B.
9B.
And I think
Okay.
Sunset, that's 16, something like that. Okay.
Because around here we're 10 and 10, some 9. I'm 10. You 10. Okay. So would that grape grow in a 10? Or does it
It
need to
probably
be a
will.
9?
It probably will. When you go on the Cowscape, there's a link here where it says Vitus Roger Red.
They'll tell.
It'll take you to Cowscape. Everything I linked to Cowscape, I think, pretty much. And it'll tell you pretty much what you need to know. And this is a popular plant. And let's see, let me go to the next one. There's summertime. And that's not, obviously we didn't prune it. And I think we pruned it the winter before. So it just came right back. I mean, pruning stimulates a plant. So that's 2 vines. And I have a picture next that shows you the shade. Here's looking up, and the shade's beautiful. It really is a lovely plant. But it's heavy. So if you're gonna grow it, make sure you have a really good fence to put it on. Yes.
Looked it up, so the great, on Cowscape, it says, sunset zones, pretty much all zones from 4 to 24. I'm pretty sure nobody goes for computers.
Well, we've had frost. We've had frost, and I've had a few plants that have frost. If it were young plants that are more susceptible to frost, this has been in place. And is when it matures, most plants, when they mature, they'll survive 20. I think we can go down to 20 degrees in my neighborhood.
Grapes off of it?
You can't eat them, but they're not worth it. So we get grapes and we have to go in and clip them because they're messy. They drop down and stain the furniture and the stones. So, and my son once said, oh, let's make wine. Forget it, no, it's not worth it. I mean, there's nothing to them. Yes.
It goes down to 15 degrees.
So the
Calcium.
Vitus, it'll tolerate, so it'll
So,
do
yeah,
fine
you
here
take
on the
care of
peninsula.
it.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a frost when it's a brand new in the ground, you probably need to protect it. But when it's mature, yeah, it'll survive. And I was just sitting under there the other day, and it is so nice. It really, and those are trained. Those are, as it grows, you take the long stems and you drape it over where you want it to go. And we don't tie them. There's wires in there to support it. And then and when I prune it, I just go in and take all the little branches. I clip those back and leave the big stems. And as years go by, just like you would with a regular grape. So do we have any chat questions? No. Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. So let's see here. So here are the links to the ones that I just showed you, the fuchsia, the coyote brush, and the native grape, and it tells you a little bit about them. And they're now next to the grape, next to that arbor, we planted an elderberry, and it gets very tall. And the reason we put it there was because we have a second story, and our window looks into our neighbor's yard, into their bedroom, and they look into our bedroom. So we put a tall plant. It is deciduous, so it does lose its leaves in the wintertime, but it's another one of those that wants to be a bush. It really wants to be a bush. Don't try to make it a tree. This thing is just tenacious. It has so many stems. And when it was young, I used to go in and give it, cut the old, just like you would with raspberries, you cut the old canes. And so that to give energy to the younger ones. I was doing that. I don't do that anymore. So I have some really, I mean, if we go in and prune that, we need to bring in a tree trimmer because it's gotten pretty. Yeah, it's gotten pretty thick. And as you can see here, the berries, they're very pretty. We also tried to see if they were worth eating. They're not. But there are people who make jam and syrup out of it. It's too much work. I'm not going to do that.
Can you eat your figs?
Pardon?
Can you eat your figs?
Oh yeah. Oh, those are mission figs. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I have a picture of the figs, but yeah, you definitely can eat the figs. Now what happened? There we go. Okay. Let's see here. Technology. So that's what the link will take you to. And I'm going to talk about Cowscape. Are you all familiar with it? Yeah. It's for native gardens, anything having to do with native plants, that is the best place to go. They have everything you need to know. You can get lists of nurseries that sell native plants by plant. So if you're looking at like elderberry, you scroll down and it says nurseries that carry this. So it'll tell you right there, and you just give them a phone call, make sure they have it, and then go buy it. And it shows you where they grow. Some people are like, oh, I only want to grow natives that grow in my neighborhood. You can nail it down. In fact, Cowscape allows you to plug in your address, and it will tell you all the plants, native plants that will grow in your area. And I'll show you that at the end. Okay, are we back on sharing?
Let's see. That wasn't a slide, is it?
No,
Okay.
that's a link. There you go.
Let me share again.
Okay.
There we go.
No, it went back to the link.
Use the back button. Let me. Gonna do that, yeah.
There you go. So red currant is one of my favorite, and it seems very, very happy in my yard. It is, there are many kind of ribes, and this is a sanguinium. This is a hybrid. So it's the native currant that grows out in the wilderness. And good places to see these plants is Edgewood Park, has a lot of natives. And this is a hybrid with probably the native crossed with probably a British a ribes. And it basically, it's the same flower, but it's bigger, it's bolder, and the bush is a lot fuller, the leaves are, it's just bigger and bolder. But it's very easy to grow. It doesn't want any water when it wants rain. It wants its water in the wintertime when it rains here, and it's happy, and then the rest of the year I don't water it. And it's very easy to propagate. When I prune it, I take some of the branches and stick them in a pot, and most of the time they root. It's very easy. Oh, now I'm going backwards.
Is it a full sun?
No, it likes shade. So here it is in the fall. Not every year. I don't know what makes a difference, if it's a weather or temperature, what it is, but it will, give you a little bit of autumn color. This is the native. So this plant we bought at a plant sale, and we had it in the ground, and this is before our landscaping, and we dug it up to do the landscaping, put it in a pot, crossed our fingers. It survived, and then we put it back in the garden once our landscape was done. And it survived. They are so tough. And I think this is just gorgeous. It's got this spreading, it's like a ballerina, it just spreads out its branches and its little chandelier flowers. And it's not going to compete with a manicured, a rose garden, but they have their beauty. And I just love them. Now they have seeds, and the hybrid tends to volunteer a lot more than this one. I don't think I've seen any volunteers of this one, but you could, once the berries dry up, you could just take the berries and stick them in the soil and see if you could get some plants out of that. But it just keeps chugging along, and I don't never fertilize it. Never. I put mulch on it. I use the compost as mulch, and we have chips there as mulch, and water it. I've learned my lesson about water. The drought has taught me that you do need to water them sometimes. So this is we had several manzanita. This is one that survived. It's a ground cover. So it's not very tall, maybe 2 feet. And it is just, the leaves are just so architectural. It is so pretty. And it's right at our front door. So I guess you could call it, it's like a specimen, right? It's a very nice plant. Toyon's up and down the freeways, and you've probably seen it. It's the red berries. That's not pyracantha. It's probably Toyon. And the birds love it. Now, Toyon, we planted in 2009. It probably took about 5 years before these things fruited. And it just takes them a long time. Maybe if we'd watered every year, given them more water, they would have, gotten established faster. But ours took about 5 years before they really started to fruit. And now there's no stopping them. And they can get quite big. I don't prune it. Actually, there's one on the patio that's almost taken over the patio. So we've had to pull it back. We haven't pruned it. We've pulled the branches back in towards the fence. Now, the other thing I noticed about that was that the reason it was leaning out was because there was the neighbor's buckeye. So if there's a plant next to it, like a tree, in its space, those plants are going to move to give that plant space. So, I go in and give their buckeye a haircut every now and then so that my Toyon can use that space. That's my space. I don't want their Toyon hanging into their buckeye hanging into my yard.
So one of the Zoom participants is sharing that there are 3 plants in Hummingbird Park, and Toyons are for sale in the Arboretum.
Okay,
So,
excellent.
in case not. Interesting.
All right, so we recently added this. My neighbor, who has a beautiful native garden, has one of these, and she told me when it was in bloom, and they are, maybe some people will get excited about it, but I did. I think they're so pretty because they're so different. I mean, you don't see anything like this in a manicured garden. And as these, if you go to the Cowscape and look at, when you go to Cowscape, you're gonna get the plant, and then you're gonna get photos. And volunteers post their photos of these plants. So you're gonna get just a gazillion photos of different stages of this plant. And you'll get to see the plants out in nature, the plant in a garden, the young plant, the plant with tassels, different stages of tassels. So you'll get to see the plant in many, many different times. And so we put one of these in recently because we had a lot of empty spaces in there. All right, so another very easy native to grow are the irises. They're called Douglas iris. That's what grows here in California. And they're very similar to regular iris. They have a little, well, they don't have a tuber because when you dig them up, do they have a tuber? Somebody here experienced with them? I just dig them out of the ground and separate them from the mother plant. And as long as they have some roots, then I can transplant them somewhere else in the garden. And that's what I've been doing. So these were all in the back on another part of the yard, and I dug them up and put them, this is next to the arbor because it's very shady with all that, the vines of the grape. And they're extremely happy there. They get some morning sun. And the white ones, this is called Snow Queen, and they bloomed before the purple ones. I have purple in there too, but they came later. And so what I've been doing is after they bloom, you probably could go in and give them a pruning, but I don't, I just divide them. When they get really dense, and they do very fast, in a few years, they will fill that space. I go in and just pull off from the mother plant a few with roots and then put them in pots or move them elsewhere in the garden. So here you can see some of the purple iris. And those were in other parts of the yard, and I moved them. This is our street. And so this is a dogwood. This is a Pacific dogwood. It may be a cross, I'm not sure if it's a cross between the native and some other. Florida, I think is, yes.
So my Douglas iris, flat, they're flat. They don't, I notice yours are all standing up,
Yeah,
but mine get sort of flat in the middle and then the leaves go all out.
maybe you need to divide it.
Maybe.
Is it
It's
big
always
and
done
wide?
that.
Is it a big clump?
It's not that big.
Is it old?
It's probably 5 years old.
Yeah, try dividing it.
Dividing it.
Yeah, and see
'Cause
what
I don't
happens.
think they've ever stood up.
Yeah.
I think they've always been that way. They're tired.
Oh.
I bought tired ones, maybe.
But they're tough. So try,
Okay.
just dig it up and divide it. They say there's a time to do it.
Like whenever I get around to it.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much how I operate. So just they say that when there's white, you can see, you dig down and you can see some white along the, I guess it's new growth or something. That's the time to split some off. And but just try it and see what happens. But this is a Pacific dogwood. And like I say, I'm not sure, it's got great big flowers, so it may have something else in it. So this was in there from the 2009, and for a few years it bloomed and then stopped. And then we had the drought and we thought it was dead and we were ready to take it out just recently when we infilled, and I begged, I said, no, let's, because we got a lot of rain this year. And I said, maybe it just needs more water. Well, that was exactly what it needed. It needed more water. And this is what I'm learning now, is that a lot of these plants, they are drought tolerant, and they want to be watered when they're supposed to be watered. They don't want to be watered when they're not supposed to be watered. But if you have a drought, you probably should turn your irrigation on. And so I learned my lesson about that. Look how pretty it is. I mean, it's like, ta-da, I'm here, I'm alive. And and then all these irises, I just love them. Okay. So here's another one that is really this is another lesson on watering your plant. So this is the bush anemone, and it grows up in the hills in the Santa Barbara County area supposedly, but it's been happy here. And this is what it looks like right now, this time of year in my yard. It's very pretty. And because it's gotten more rain, it's filled out. This is what it looks like when you don't water it, when after it's bloomed and you don't prune it and you don't water it. The very sad case there of
What they do.
yeah. So once it blooms, you're supposed to go in and prune it. And so it's just like any other plant. You take out the old stems and leave the younger ones. And you don't fertilize it, but I use compost. I give because I have a lot of compost, so I just have to put it on everywhere. And I put compost in there. And it does like water. Now what happened? Okay. Oh, so it's going to show you on bush. Now I like that image so much. I've copied it and I'm trying to watercolor paint it. I haven't succeeded, but I just think that is such a pretty picture. And yeah, they are beautiful flowers. All right. So did I hit something or did you move something, Ben?
Did you?
Okay. All right. So creek dogwood, this is one plant that I had bought at some plant sale, and we put in the yard, and it will get big. It needs a big space. So if you have a big space that you want to fill, this might be a good one. I didn't like it, but the thing is tenacious. I have tried to dig it up, and it keeps coming back. It just keeps coming back. It pops up everywhere. So, and in the winter time, its claim to fame is that it loses its leaves and then the stems are red. It's supposed to be pretty, but you'd have to have an awful lot of it. And as you can see, it's like a bramble almost. This is a sad story. So I had a plant, I had the Portuguese laurel in my yard. It was the original, with the original manicured garden. And it was a bush. And I, being a gardener, I want to experiment. So I wanted to train it into a tree, and I managed to do that. And so it grew tall and it started getting sun, and all of a sudden it had these beautiful flowers. Oh my goodness, it was so pretty. And just these big white clusters. And then somebody told me it wasn't native and it had a disease. So we took it out, and I wish I hadn't, because then I found that the chokecherry is similar. This one on the left is a native California. It's a chokecherry, and it looks very similar. And I have it, but they take forever to grow. I mean, I have it, and it still looks like a seedling with a few big leaves on it, but it's not growing. So I wish I hadn't taken out the other one, because it's just spectacular. Now around here, and especially down where I live, buckeyes are everywhere. And as you know, here's what they look like, the seeds. They fall and they plant themselves everywhere. So we have buckeyes coming out of our ears. And the hills there off of Page Mill, as you go down 280 south, all of that hill there on the right is buckeyes. And when they're in bloom, they are quite beautiful. And we have a round window in the second story, and my neighbor has a buckeye, and it looks like a bridal bouquet, when they're, so they really are pretty. And you prune them to shape them pretty much, if one branch is getting in the way, but they take care of themselves year in and year out. They don't need really any, oaks do need to be trimmed because the branches get weak and you don't want those to fall. And so the mock orange is another California native that is magnificent. It's a bush, and it doesn't really smell like orange. It's fragrant, and it can get quite large. And if it's in a happy place, it's got all the right ingredients, it will just be covered with blossoms. It's very easy to propagate. You can take cuttings from it and stick them in the ground, And it does like a little bit of water, I think, and a little kind of partial shade. So you'd protect it from hot sun. Because I did put it in the hot sun and it wasn't getting enough water and it didn't do well there. This is a ground cover. It's a ribes. As I said, there are many kind of ribes, and this is the ground cover. And this is nice to where you have bare spaces that you want to fill in, and it's long, and you can take the branches and just take the leaves off and bury them in the ground, put a rock on it, and it will root into the ground. And so that's kind of how I've been spreading it little by little. Supposedly it has flowers. When you click on that link and go to Calscape, I think they have pictures of flowers. I've never seen flowers on mine, but it's pretty. It's really shiny, so it has a nice texture. So I like to have different textures around the yard. So some are hairy and ruffly, and some are you know, so shiny. And so all different textures. It's different shades of green, different textures, different shades. Holly leaf cherry was what we used to put a hedge on the side fence with our neighbors. And they do have berries. Supposedly they're edible. It's just like the elderberry and the grape. There's not a whole lot there. And that picture is quite magnified. I don't think they're nearly that big. And, you know, from a distance, you don't see them. Like, and we're in the living room, we see the hedge, we don't see the berries. You'd have to go up really close to see the berries. And they took a while to get established, but once they got established, they filled in. And as you can see, it's pretty dense there. So if you want a hedge, and you want a tidy hedge, you need to prune it, pretty much. And you know, it'll fill right back in, and you need to go back and prune it. This is the vine that we put over the arbor, that wooden structure that we had over the garage. And it's very pretty here, but it never looked like that on our arbor. I don't know if it didn't get enough sun or what it was. I've seen this growing in the wild, and it's a scrambler. It's not really a vine with trendrils that will stick to something. It will get onto a bush and then just kind of hike. So it will scramble over. That's its natural state. And so I had to take the branches, and they're like glass. So every time, if you're too rough with them, they break. So you have to very gently tie the branch on. We had a wire that led them up to and then you get them up there, and then you try to very gently train them to go across. So that was not a good choice for an arbor. They make a great ground cover, so they're still they're still planted, and I just haven't bothered to help them up. So they're all over they act as a ground cover, basically. They fill in, and they reseed themselves. They volunteer all over the yard too. So this is what the yard looks like now on the right, and this is what it looked like in just recently. Let's see if I can get the pointer here. This shows you the apricot filled in. You can see the what happens with that hedge back there, the privet in the back. They got really tall, and they just were not looking pretty anymore. So we took them out, and we were going to put a hedge in, and then the landscaper said, wait a minute, you have an easement here and I have liability. No, I can't plant anything there. So we're on our own for that. And at that same time, PG&E decided that maybe they were going to move the gas. We're hoping they'll do that, and then abandon that easement so we can plant a hedge.
So in the meantime, it's empty.
Yes, right now, in fact, we're in the process of replacing the fence with a neighbor, and we're higher, so we were going to put in a retaining wall. But you know, if you do a real retaining wall, you need permit from the county, and it already took over a year to get the fence permit. So forget that. We're gonna put in you know, treated wood and figure out how we're gonna protect it from, because little by little the soil does move down towards the fence. So it was untidy because we weren't pruning and cleaning things up. You can't even see the rocks here in the swale. Look here, when they cleaned it up, weeded it. We cut back the holly chief cherry. This is the elderberry right here, and this is in the winter. It's deciduous, but it's got a lot of stems, as you can see. And then there's a holly leaf cherry, and then there's over here is the apricot is deciduous too. So you just see the branches.
Did
But-
you say you took out your,
Pardon?
did you say you took out your apricot? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So is that the one, it's no longer there?
no longer there. No, we removed
Oh.
it. You know, it was, I didn't put the pictures in here, but I was gonna do a talk on reusing things in your yard. And we had pulled off, because we weren't pruning every year, we had just a ton of branches, big branches from that apricot and long stems that we could have used for structures and things. And, you know, I was thinking, oh, but it was too much work. So but if you put in an apricot tree or any kind of fruit tree, you're gonna either hire somebody or you're gonna be out there pruning that thing. Otherwise, it's not gonna do very well. And so this is my main source of information. California Native Plant Society is all up and down California, and they have chapters all over. And the two for us are San Francisco and Santa Clara County. They're both very active. The people are just love what they're doing. They're wonderful people. This is what CalScape looks like. And it's calscape.org. And you can put in your address and it will tell you all this stuff. You can do an advanced search. So all these things, so here's all the stuff I learned just about my address. You know, it's just gonna tell me my hottest month, coldest month. By the way, this is my new theory is you don't plant by the time of year, you plant by the temperature. Because remember we had, supposedly your last frost is in February, March. Well, it was still cold. The soil was still cold. Nothing was going to grow. So you know, I'm revising the way I do things. So CalScape, I put in my address, and this is what it told me that I have. I have all these plants native plants that will grow in my area, supposedly. I don't have all of them. I do have a plant list. So if you create an account with CalScape, you can then create a my list, and it's very easy. It's just a text box and you can paste. I've taken people's list of plants and just pasted them in there, and then they're all in my plant list, and then I can click on each one and see pictures of them. So it told me these are the plants that I can grow in my area.
Can I ask where you
Yes.
get most of your plants from? Where you like prefer to?
I go to plant sales a lot, and I've gotten them from the California Native Plant Society, and then the landscape architect buys a lot of hers from wholesalers. That's the other advantage of going through them, is they get discounts and they have access to these wholesale nurseries that have things that others don't have. Linda Vista is a good one. I think he was a hobbyist that had a property down in Saratoga, and just you know, it turned into a business. And so he grows natives. And that's where I got my choke cherry, and it's like this. It's gonna take decades for that thing to grow in it. Now, another new feature of CalScape is they have garden planners. This is just one example. So you click on a design that you like, style that you like, and it'll give you ideas. So if you want to be your own designer and set up your own garden, and that would probably be the way to start, is grow some in pots, or just find a little area in your garden and grow some and see what it feels like, you know. But if you've been wanting this for a long time and you have the means to go hire somebody, by all means do it, you know, because this is your space. You're going to live there and use it in the way that you want to use it for a long time. And I went through these and checked the links, make sure they're up to date. and pretty much they are. These are all excellent resources. Let's see here, the native tour course, then it's Cowscape, how to use Cowscape. You watch the video and they'll tell you exactly how to get the most out of Cowscape. The list of professionals is basically, that link will take you to the page on the CNPS or Cowscape, I don't know which one, they're the same, that lists all the people that are either designers who have a degree from Foothill. For instance, Foothill has a very good a horticulture program, and they teach them about plants and about design, and they're not landscape architects, but they can come up with a design, and they're a lot less expensive. So they have those, and then they have the architects. Now, not all of them are good. We talked to one architect and asked him about a hedge, and he said, "Oh, just plant redwoods as a hedge." I'm so glad we did. Can you imagine? I mean, they get gigantic. They would take over the whole yard. So that was really bad advice. So then we have here Edgewood. If you want to see natives growing in their natural state, Edgewood is fabulous. They have docent-led tours every weekend around this time of year. They have an email list. Their friends, it's free. Just go to Edgewood, Friends of Edgewood, and sign up for their email. I get an email every week, and there's a group of volunteers, and mostly women our age, that go out there and they take pictures and they put them onto they have a page on iNaturalist for Friends of Edgewood. All the plants and the flora and the fauna in the park. And they obviously love what they're doing, and you just feel it when you read their emails. They're just having so much fun and taking great pictures, and birds' nests, and lizards, and everything that you can imagine. And it just makes it so much more enjoyable. Then there's the Explorer is their newsletter that you get if you I think you're a member. And the lawn. Now, there are a lot of cities that give you a rebate if you convert your lawn to something other than a lawn. I mean, you could put gravel in and maybe they give you money, but it's much nicer to put in natives. And so she shows you her process. And I think that the lawn conversion videos, that's through the Bay Area Water Conservation Service or something, BASCA. They have a lot of free classes on natives and landscaping. Basically, the county is trying to save water, right? The state of California is trying to teach us to save water. And so they have a lot of lawn conversion videos. I encourage you to watch them. They are really inspirational. And your yard everyone will stop and admire your yard. Let's see, there's a native plant discussion group. That's the people that are growing natives. And they're people like you and me, and they're just asking for advice. And there are some professionals on that list. And so I'm on their list and I get tons. They are very active. And I just go down, and if it interests me, I click. That's a very active group. Let's see, how to water. It's really important about the watering. So the first year, when you put them in the ground and you do it in the winter time, that's the best time to put your natives in. Is either you're going to hand water or you're going to have a drip system, but the rain is going to help them get established. Okay, and then if you put them on a drip system, I think we did 3 minutes 3 times a week, something like that. So your landscaper or Cowscape will help you figure out how much water your plant's going to need, because that's usually how we kill them. We overwater them or we underwater them, and it's just a learning process. Let's see, this is a video. Shirley's no longer with us, but she made a lot of videos she was a landscape architect. This is maintaining native gardens in Leek. Easy, moderate, and challenging natives, an excellent list of all the if you want to start out with the easy ones. So that is, and I want to thank you to the Arboretum, and that's my email. If you click on that link and you have any questions, please don't feel shy about emailing me. I'm an enthusiast, and I will respond to you, probably talk your ear off. One of the master gardeners brought these in. She wanted to show off. This is a succulent, a native succulent. It's called Siskiyou. Its name, it doesn't have a common name. Its common name is Siskiyou lewisia, something like that. And she says that it blooms most of the year like this. And this one is called Pretty Face. That's the common name, Pretty Face. And it's a bulb. Yeah, it's a bulb. And there's a lady who is a hobbyist who now has a business. She's probably in our age group too. She grows from seed. She grows the bulbs and the tubers, and then she sells those for natives. It's called Telos, Telos. And I thought she was going to retire, but I guess she's having so much fun, she kept going. And so those are,
That's the name of her business?
yes, Telos. I think, pretty sure that's what it is. And so, or, you know, if that doesn't work, just Google native bulbs and you'll probably find her. It might even be in the list of nurseries, because she's kind of a niche person. Carolyn, the master gardener, says that she belongs to some bulb group that I'm not even familiar with. And this is called Yerba Santa. It's in the mint family, and it's a ground cover. And Carolyn said that you could grow this like a lawn and step on it. It's pretty tough. So, you know, there are so many alternatives to lawn, you know, and you're gonna save money. My neighbor has a lawn, and he you know, his water bill is out of this, you know, it's ridiculous. So you're gonna save a lot of money by getting rid of your lawn and just putting in drought tolerant. Even if they're not natives, drought tolerant will make a huge difference. So how are we doing?
Plus
Okay.
line. So I'm gonna tell it to you, and then if you can repeat it out. Ideas for gardening with voles, moles, and deer.
Oh, good luck. I have both. Well, with the moles and the gophers, try to get rid of them, trap them. Master gardeners have many classes on doing this. In fact, there's one that's coming up. If you go to our website, and I think there's a link in there in my presentation, how to get a hold of the San Francisco Master Gardeners. And she's going to teach you how to trap these little critters. And I had voles, and I put in mouse traps because they're little. And I think the voles come from the above and tunnel in. They don't come from underneath, because we had welded wire underneath the planter boxes, so they were not coming in from underneath. They were coming from outside. And I finally took, my husband had that sage that you burn, and I thought, okay, I'll stink them out. And so I burned some of that and stuck in. I don't know if it worked. I got rid of them, but you know, you try everything, right? Because
I got 2 barn cats. I went up to Mendocino County and found a farm up there where the cats had been born in the barn, so they knew how to hunt and how to kill because their moms had taught them. And they wiped out my voles. And my female was really the huntress.
Well,
Repeat the comment, please.
pardon?
Repeat the comment.
Oh, the comment was how to get rid of voles, moles, and deer. Right. That was the online comment. And for voles, any kind of gopher, voles, moles, I recommend that you take our Master Gardener class on controlling them, trapping them, and you know, if you can get enough, reduce the numbers, you're going to get rid of them. Because you know, we've tried they have things where you put them in the tunnel and then it explodes and there's smoke or something like that. It never worked. It's a never-ending problem. Now we have a rabbit in our yard. Okay, so now we have to cover everything up, and of course we have squirrels. I never get any blueberries. It's just constant. I mean, you're in their environment, let's face it, so they're gonna come and help themselves.
Here's a follow-up question to the barn cats. Do they take out songbirds?
Yes,
That's the problem,
yeah.
is
Yeah.
you have to balance those two.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, my neighbor, when they first moved in, the young couple, I said, please don't get a cat. Because we have quail, and little baby
Oh.
quail are on the ground, they don't fly. We have no quail.
Exactly.
So that's, yeah, and I love
Great.
cats. I love cats, but they really, they'll take care of your bird population.
A friend of mine, neighbor, kidnapped her cat and gave her away, the cat away, to a woman in another neighborhood because she was so angry that the cat was eating her birds. The police got involved. It was like one of these crazy things. They had to find the kidnapped cat. And then my friend had to build a catio for Bugsy. So Bugsy's in a catio.
Well, for instance, we were told by Fish and Game that, we used to live trap and we had a raccoon or something like that. They said, no, you can't do anything. You have to let it go. It's against the law to trap them and move them somewhere else. So the thing with the raccoons and most of wildlife is just common sense. Don't leave out food. For the rats, we make sure that when we put our kitchen scraps into our compost, we cover it with a heavy layer of leaves so that they can't smell it. I mean, one day we were digging in our compost and there was a rat nest in there, babies. And my son says, what are we doing? I said, well, I'll go get a bucket of water, we'll drown them. Well, the dog took care of it. So, I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is nature doing its thing, right?
Yeah.
And so just don't leave pet food out. And if you get a pest, try to get rid of it as fast as you can, because otherwise they're going to decimate your garden.
For the deer part of that question, we get that question at the Arboretum over here all the time. And there's certain plants that deer don't eat. So we're pretty familiar with what they are in the Arboretum. And like my front yard is full of rhododendrons right now because deer don't eat rhododendrons, they don't eat azaleas.
Yeah, I think that's the trick, is find out, what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a temperature, you're dealing, with a climate, and you're dealing with the native habitat. And if you have deer, then you don't plant things that deer are gonna come and eat. And we don't have that problem, luckily. Any more questions?
Any more questions for Leslie? Nothing from the net, no.
So everybody's gonna get a PDF of my slideshow, and please click on the highlighted links and go to Calscape, learn how to use Calscape. It's your best friend for natives, and try it out and get involved with these groups on this email group and start learning about natives. And if you want to convert your yard, see if your city offers you a rebate, and contact the master gardeners, and we will advise. We won't do it for you, but we will advise you how to do it. How to put in the cardboard and kill your lawn and then plant on top of it.
Also check with your water agency.
Hmm?
Local water agency actually has rebates.
Yes. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Leslie, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you, everybody, for coming. In the next few days, you will receive an email with a link to the video for this presentation and a link to a feedback form that we really appreciate if you filled out. It helps us a lot for planning future programs, knowing what you like, what you don't like. Everyone in person, you have one on your seats. You should have one with you. If you want, we have pens in the back, so you can fill that out real quick and hand that back to us. If you enjoyed this seminar, which I'm sure you did, we do these seminars monthly. Our next seminar is coming up on July 9th with Cal Water to talk about planting and gardening for low water use, which will be very informative. I'm sure there's a lot to learn there, very useful here, not lately, but certainly in the future. Additionally, if you want to get more involved in the Arboretum in any volunteering, you can become a member. We have brochures in the back that will tell you about Arboretum membership that comes with a discount at the greenhouse and more information about all of our programs. If you're interested in volunteering, we could always use more volunteers to help us organize things like this, work events like this, work in the greenhouse, work on the rose garden. So let myself or really any of our volunteers know, or check on the website. And yeah, thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you so much, Kevin on IT. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.